It's easy to lose sleep when you're worried about your health insurance plan. But when you have a family counting on you to take care of them, having the right coverage is more important than ever. That's why Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is here to help. With low to no cost plans for you and your family, so you never go it alone. That's our Anthem. Click to learn more.
Dermavant Sciences CEO Todd Zavodnik shares why they're driven to change how chronic skin diseases are treated.
In dermatology, the two largest disease states are psoriasis and atopic dermatitis, known as eczema. And the option that's been available for the last 30, 40, 50 years has been steroidal topical treatment options. And there's so many limitations to that. Our mission is to move that to a non-steroidal, once-a-day treatment option.
Visit dermavant.com to learn more.
Hello, 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 everyone. This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I have somebody so cool to introduce with you because I have had such a good time. I was on his podcast recently trying to get on my Spanish skills, but y'all know how that is. Anyway, I am so glad he is here. I wanted to introduce you to him. His name is Cristobal Colón. Yep, you heard that right. He is a podcaster. He's a speaker. He's a former search and rescue instructor, a yoga instructor. This guy does it all, right? So he struggled in the past with public speaking is because he says he's an introvert personality, but he has overcome those challenges to become a very successful communicator. And he's now the host of a podcast called, here goes my Spanish, Nos Cambiaron los Muñequitos. I hope I said that right, which has won the Latin Podcast Award for Best Personal Development Podcast in 2020 and 2021, which is not a small feat. Thank you so much for being here, Cristobal. How are you?
Thank you, Nina, for having me here. And I think that today is your payback. You were speaking Spanish in my podcast, and now you're forcing me to speak English in your podcast. That's
exactly right. That is correct. That is correct. Payback. Oh, it's so fun. No, that was really fun, but it was really challenging. And I shared the podcast, of course, and a lot of people are like, "Wow, you speak Spanish pretty good." I'm like, "No, I do not." He helped me. There was pauses. Yes. Chris was like, "Let's start that over. Say it like this." He helped me out. Anyway, Cristobal, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I was really, really looking forward for this opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Me too. I really had so much fun on your podcast, and it was you were such a great host. And even though that some of the topics we got into were pretty serious, we were both laughing a lot. It was just such a fun time. So now it's my turn to get it with you. So, Cristobal, who are you? Who are you? Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, if I talk about what I'm doing right now, I say that I'm a podcaster. I'm a public speaking mentor, and I help people and teach them how to get into public speaking.
Nice.
But for many years, for 25 years, I was a computer engineer, and I worked for the electrical company in Puerto Rico. And in 2014, I decided that I wanted to do something else. I wanted to. I knew that I don't want to be an engineer for many years. So I quit my job. I did a big change in my life, and I joined Toastmasters, so I can learn how to speak and gain some self-confidence. And then after that, I achieved the DTM, the Distinguished Toastmasters, which is the highest designation that you can get in Toastmasters.
Wow.
And I decided that the next thing is to create my own podcast.
Nice.
I bought the recorder, the microphones, and everything was looking nice on the boxes, but I was doing nothing. Then on 2017, Hurricane Maria struck Puerto Rico, and it was very difficult for all of us. Even though I was lucky, I was for more than a month without electricity.
Wow.
And at that time I said, no, I have to do it. And I created this podcast, Nos Cambiaron los Muñequitos. And it's all about dealing with change, how to reinvent ourselves, how to deal with adversity, how do we cope with the things that happen in our lives, and how to accept change in our lives. And after that, I just it's been 5 years since I started this podcast, and I think it's the best thing that I've done in my life.
Oh, that's so good. I love podcasting too. I think it's such a blessing to meet people from so many different areas and listen to all these different stories. And Maria was a very difficult time for Puerto Rico, very difficult time. And so it's very inspiring and also surprising, right? That hardship, you didn't even have electricity for like a month, and then you say, oh, I'll start a podcast now. Now's a good time. What did that though? What made you do that? Like, was it that you were looking around and saying, okay, people need to know more about what's going on here? Or was it that you just wanted to be outside of that, because I would think that kind of challenge can also be very depressing and very hard on you, right? A whole month without electricity.
Yeah.
The island is hit pretty hard. So tell me, what was that for you?
Well, first, there are a couple of reasons that I decided to finally start my podcast. First, I called Hurricane Maria. For me, it was the big leveler. And I hope many people they were having their own projects and businesses, and it set us all back to zero. A lot of people had to begin again from zero.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we're all back to zero. It's a good time to start. And second, besides Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, we've been dealing with an economical crisis, fiscal crisis, crisis in the government. And first, I needed to talk about my change, about how I deal with change every day. And I thought that a lot of people wanted to talk about that, and some other people needed to listen on examples or ways to how they can deal with change in their own lives. So those are the reasons why I started my podcast.
So when you started your podcast, were you more trying to reach just your local community, just like the people around you that were also at ground zero? What was your idea and thought process behind starting the podcast?
Well, the thing is that once you start podcasting, it opens such a big door to the whole world.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know the reach that all the places that you can get through a podcast. First, I started with my friends, fellow Toastmasters, some coaches, local coaches that I know, but then I saw that people were listening from many other countries, and then because podcasting for me is been just an opportunity to learn, for me to grow, and some people have been lucky to come together with me in this transformation process. But it's all basic. I want to, when I talk to you, I wanted to know you. I wanted to know your story. I wanted to learn from you. And podcasting has been this opportunity to reach out to other people and ask questions, having a conversation. Normally, it's very rude if you see someone on the public space and you want to reach out and start a conversation. Maybe it's rude, maybe it's not easy, but through a podcast, for me, it's wow. There are so many opportunities to reach out and talk and learn, and it's amazing. It's
fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah, but you weren't always like this, right? Because you said that you struggled a lot. That's why you joined Toastmasters and all of that. But because your journey didn't start with podcasting, it started with you self-developing, right? Trying to really improve yourself. So like a moment? Because you said that you just didn't want to do that anymore. You didn't want to do the engineering anymore. Were you burnt out? Were you exhausted? What was that shift for you?
Well, sometimes it's there's a big lesson that I learned that sometimes you think that if you do something good, you should stick to it. No, and I think that it's not enough being good at something to make a living out of it. You have to feel passionate, yeah. And
Passionate.
you have and you have to feel that you are striving for excellence on that. So being good enough in something, that's not enough. You should look out. And I was feeling like that. I was feeling that
That's
I'm
so good.
doing, yeah, and I wasn't feeling there wasn't I didn't feel in my heart to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I decided, no, even though I do things good enough, it doesn't mean that I have to do it. So
Right.
I
Right.
I started doing things that were very difficult for me. I'm almost 60 years old, and I'm still learning about this and connecting with people, starting conversations, sending emails, reaching out. So this for me, this is very helpful for me.
Yeah. You know what? First of all, let's back up because I can't believe you just said you're almost 60. I thought you were younger than me. Holy shit. Sorry, but that really surprised me. Okay,
So
because I'm
good.
50, so I thought you were younger than me. I cannot believe you're wow, okay, that's crazy. Okay, that's first of all. Secondly, I think what I love about what you just said too is I want people to understand because a lot of people who listen to my podcast are leaders and entrepreneurs, right? And I
Hmm.
want people to understand what you just said because you're talking about the fact that you can always reinvent yourself. It doesn't matter. I'm sure that when you started your engineering, you probably were passionate about it. You probably loved it, right? I've been through two different careers myself, right? One was in medical, one was as a chef. Loved them both with all of my heart. I really did. But at some point, my passion shifted, right? And now what I want to see is the women being impacted and developing the things that they want to do in their life. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not the same mentality it used to be, right, Cristobal? Like when you had a job back in the day, you stuck with that job for 30, 40, 50 years, you retire, you die,
Hmm.
right? Nowadays, it's not like that anymore. Now we really do want to. I think it's the more we have learned and developed and really just expanded our mind as humans, the more we realize that life is super short and that we really need to follow our passion in our hearts, right? I
Yeah.
love that you said that. And I love that you're like, I needed to do something and you did it, right? So let me ask you something. How long do you think it took you from the moment you said, I really don't want to do this anymore, to the actual execution, like to the actual leaving your job? And how long was that period for you?
Well, there are a couple of things that I needed to do. Well,
Mm-hmm.
because I first I started working in some other government agency. There were some funds that I have to transfer. It was for many years I was trying to work everything so I can
Mm-hmm.
retire
Mm-hmm.
and get some pension and get some money, so it
Right.
can be like a safety net where I can do other
Right.
things. So it was I think it was at least more than 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
um, the thing is that you we are always waiting for opportunities,
Yeah.
but we have to be ready for when opportunities show up. I was
Mm.
working on everything. I was managing my finances. I was paying debts, just canceling this credit card because I needed to be ready when the opportunity showed up. And let me tell you, it was very, very drastic when I had to take the decision because even though I was planning on, it was in June, and I was planning to retire on January on my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
On a Friday afternoon, someone called everybody in our office and they say, if you want to retire now, you have to go to the office, to the people who do all the transactions, because they're gonna approve a law this weekend,
Oh my God.
And if you can't do this right now, you won't be able to do it on Monday. So I was ready and I went there and I did
That's
everything.
awesome.
So, but the thing is that you have to be, you have to work and being ready. So when the opportunity shows up, you're able to do it.
Right, right.
Yeah, and that was like that. It was quite difficult for me. So
I'm sure. Okay, so there's so many things, right? Because I think that I love that. You have to work and start getting yourself ready for when the opportunity comes. And I think that's what people get discouraged about, Cristobal. I think that, people think now because of all the social media world and all that fake accounts and all that stuff out there, right? People think that they can just go and do it in 24 hours, they're going to have $1 million, right? Then they don't. And then they don't think they're good enough. They don't think they're smart enough. They don't think they can do it. This is where all the challenges, depression, anger, all of that sets in. And what I want people to understand is that it's always going to be a challenge and you may never be 100% ready. Yes. And that's okay too, but at least start thinking about, and I tell this even to the women that I coach, don't leave your day job. Use your day job as the resource that you need to support what you want to do, right? And so I love that you said that, and I was wondering, like, when you're mentoring, because you mentioned earlier when I asked you who you were, that you mentor people. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So are you mentoring them in one aspect, in like speaking, in like podcasting, and shifting careers? What are you mentoring them in?
First, there's another thing that I wanted to tell you about what we were talking about, is that sometimes you don't know exactly what you want to do. You don't have clarity in your mind. But even though on that situation, there are things that you can do for when you get the clarity of mind and when you find out what you really want to do. So there are things that you can do. You can read books. You can work on your public speaking skills. You can learn computers. There are things that you can do so you can be ready when when the opportunity shows up. And
that's so good.
And what I do with people, first, this is my personal story. First, I was an introvert. I was very shy, and when I started working on that, then I thought, well, do I have anything interesting to talk about? Do I have anything inside me that people want to hear about it? And I started discovering things in me that could be useful to some other people. And that's what I call the key method. It's have 3 parts or 3 areas that you have to discover inside of yourself the key, and then when you find out, you get some self-confidence.
Hey there, my amazing community of straight talkers. I just wanted to give a quick announcement because I wanted to introduce you to a transformative life coaching program that I have made exclusively for women. I want them to break free from shame and embrace their true potential so that they can build that life and business that they have always wanted. Now, our transformational coaching will guide you. We will help you. We will uncover your passion, your goals, and will develop your roadmap to success. Visit me at neenaperez.com and you can join an amazing community of women that are on the same trajectory as you, because I want you to create that life and business you deserve and transcend that shame and unwanted behaviors. So don't wait any longer. Visit neenaperez.com and let's embark on this journey together. Now back to the show.
And then you say, well, I have something to say. And the key is, first, the K is the knowledge, because you have to go to university, to college, and you've learned a lot of things. And that's very important. That's very useful for whatever you do next. Then the second, the E in the key, is your experience. You've done many things in your life. You have many works. You have met people. You have done a lot of things, and that experience is very important. And the third part of the key is your stories, the things that you have lived, the story of your life that you told me in your podcast. That's an amazing thing. So then you find out that you have the knowledge, you have the experience, you have your stories, and you say, well, wow, I have something that
Yeah.
some people can use this. I just have to work on that and have to polish it, refine
Yep.
it, make it pretty, and then have something that I can tell everybody. And not everybody will enjoy it, but some people will connect
Yeah.
with you. Some
Yeah.
people will think that what you said is what they needed to hear. So that's what I do. Try to work on the people finding their key, the knowledge, the experience, and their stories,
I
so
love
they
it.
can feel self-confident and start developing that and going out to the world.
I love that. I love that. I do that with my women too as an onboarding process, right? And I call it mastering your game. And game is for your goals, your awareness, your mind flow, and your emotional intelligence. And it's basically breaking it down the same, right? Like finding, because what we don't realize is that's currency. Your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience, that is money. That's currency because nobody has that like you have it because you're an individual. And I think I love the layer too of your story because that's what really makes the knowledge and the experience better than anybody else's knowledge and experience because you have your story with it. That's really, really great, Cristobal. I'm glad you're doing that. What a shift, huh? What a shift in your career.
Yeah. And there's another thing that people think that this is my work, this is my professional life, and this is my personal life.
Right.
And these are my hobbies. No. Everything gets interconnected. And let me tell you an example. I was mentoring an engineer, an electrical engineer, and he was talking to me about his hobbies, and he likes to be on competition with a gun and like defense, like self-defense. So he goes into a course and he starts shooting things, and then I told him, well, this is very important because you're preparing yourself to making life or death situations on your life, so you can bring that to your profession, to your work. So you have to learn that what you have as a person, as a professional, as a family member, all that experience, it's helpful. You can use it in different ways.
That's right. Yeah. And when you were giving that example, all I kept thinking is the precision that an engineer has to have, right? The same thing, the precision you have to have with self-defense, with shooting, with all of that. So it's amazing, right? I feel like everything we do, whether you're right, whether it's professional or personal, always has an interlink. There's a reason why we do what we do, right? Now, you might not be happy with the job that you have, but that's okay. Get your skill sets from what you've learned in that job and utilize them moving forward because it's still a part of you. Whether it's writing, whether it's reading certain things, whether it's learning how to organize, all of those things are important. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. We think, oh, it's not that important until you realize somebody doesn't know how to block their time, but you do because that's what you used to do. Somebody doesn't know how to put up a website, but you do because that's what you used. It's like we have to give ourselves, I always say this, we always have to give ourselves credit where credit is due and not be ashamed of the things that we know, but actually highlight them. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
So are you enjoying that process in your career, in your life, like this mentoring?
Yeah. A couple of days ago, I found out I have this, I don't know how to say it, an insight, like a thing, an idea that I suddenly realized about myself. I was listening to someone's video, and he was talking about imposter syndrome. And then I said,
Just thought about that, yeah.
I just felt, I've always feel like that. I always felt like that many times. And then I found out when the only time that I don't feel like an imposter is when I'm mentoring someone. Why? Because I'm sharing what I know, what I've learned. And when I see that what I shared helps that person, that it works for him or for her, now I don't feel like an imposter. It's like testing myself, sharing what I know. Sometimes I do it for free for some people. when I share it and they say, wow, this works. What I have inside really works. It's useful. So
Yeah.
you can be a mentor, and it helps me deal with imposter syndrome. If you help somebody else, even though if it's for free,
Yeah.
then you feel like you're not an imposter. You can be useful. You can help someone.
Yeah, that's so good. I actually did a whole teaching recently on imposter syndrome because it is something that plagues everybody, and it's normal. It's a normal feeling. It's a normal thing to happen. I always say be careful though that it doesn't cripple you, because there's a difference between
Yeah.
between you having it. Everybody has it. I don't care how big you are, you have it. But it's how you deal with it, right? It's how you don't let it cripple you, because that's what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs. They come out, they have a great idea and a great concept, and they want to do mentoring and coaching or whatever, and then immediately they feel like a fraud, right? They feel that's what imposter
Yeah.
syndrome is. They feel like a fraud, and then they stop themselves. It cripples them. It literally
Yeah.
just cripples them, and they
Yeah.
don't move forward. I'm glad you're helping people with that. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Do you go ahead?
uh,
Go ahead.
no, and it's not important what you feel, it's what you do about it. And
Do. Yeah,
like
that's
when you
right.
say is you feel like an imposter, it's okay. You can feel that. It's okay feeling that way.
Yeah.
The problem is what you do with that. And if
Right.
you let that stop you, that's a problem. If,
That's a
as you
problem.
said, that if it cripples you, that's a problem. Feeling
Mm-hmm.
it is not okay. It's not bad. You can use that imposter syndrome to practice more, to
Mm-hmm.
learn more, so you can feel more comfortable. But it's what you do or what you feel.
Right. I call it a gremlin. I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Gremlins, but I call it the gremlin. And so every time I feel that imposter syndrome come up, I speak to the gremlin and I'm like, "Oh, you're here. Okay. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you can go now." Like I actually I kind of like made it in my mind like a little ugly monster, and we're not going to have that, because otherwise, I mean, it's crippled me in my life in the past where I just will like completely feel like a failure and can't do it, right?
Yeah.
I have the personality though that I grab the bull by the horns and I keep moving forward, but not everybody's like that, right?
Yeah.
So I try to give people those skills, and I'm glad you're doing that. Are you working with men and women, or how does your program work, or your coaching
I've
go?
done both. I've done
Okay.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is it something that people call you and they're with you for a while, a couple of weeks, one time? How do you
Well,
set that up?
it's also when you ask me about podcasting,
Yeah.
I don't do podcasting training or
Yeah.
podcasting mentoring just for people who want to have their own podcast. I use podcasting as another tool for
Right.
improving your communication skills. So
Right.
maybe somebody is working on his speaking skills, and then a podcast is the right choice to go on and keep practicing. But I don't focus on creating podcasts just for creating a podcast.
Right.
If it works for you, then if it's worked creating a YouTube channel, then we'll do that. Also, what I normally do is we create like a package of sessions, and it's one on one, and we arrange the schedule, all the sessions, and there's things that we do during the sessions, but there's also work that we have to do outside. When you create
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a speech, we have to analyze it, review it. And you have your own homework, and it's
Good.
we have
Good.
and it's all the flexibility, and you can arrange as far or closer when you want to have them. It's no
Yeah.
problem at all.
That's great. I'm glad. And I love that you told us a bit about your story too, because it's a way for people to understand that it's not like you're just coming up with some AI speech and you're just saying, "Here, I could teach you this," but that you've actually been through stuff, right? Like you actually had gone through that, the imposter syndrome, but also the fact that you didn't like to speak in the public and all of that, and you did the work, is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say. You
Yeah.
did the work, right? You have your key. You have the key,
Yeah.
right? I love that. Okay, so if somebody's listening right now and it's like, "Wow, I really enjoy listening to Cristobal. I love what he has to say. I think he's my kind of dude. I want to work with him." Do you work with them in Spanish and English, by the way, or just Spanish, or how do you prefer?
I can do both. Yeah. I've worked with people that speak Spanish, and I work with people that are bilingual.
Right,
That
right.
they both English and
That's
Spanish.
great.
So, but we can do it. We can do it because it's yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
same thing inside.
yeah.
Finding new ideas
Exactly.
and self confidence. It's the same.
I
So
love
yeah,
that. And I love it because I know that a lot of my listeners are bilingual. So this is great. Great
yeah.
audience. So how do they reach you? How do they contact you? And I also want you to tell us how people can hear your podcast and all that too.
Okay. There's a last thing that I wanted to tell you.
Yeah, let's
So
go. Let's
this
do
is
it.
an example of how shy I was when we went into a restaurant. I always preferred my wife to call the waiter, and she knew that.
Really?
Yeah, and she said that she saw my face, and then she knew that I was feeling shy, and
Right.
she was the one who did call the waiter and everything. That
Wow.
was how shy I was, and I remember I sometime I went to New York, and I went into a cafeteria, to a restaurant, and I was sitting in a table on a chair, and when I looked to the right, there was Deepak Chopra there,
Oh,
and I
wow.
was so scared of him. I wasn't able to just. I wanted to say hi or say something. I was so scared, and I did nothing. Years
Right.
later, I went back to to New York, and I was in JFK, and I was walking through the gate. I saw Simon Sinek, or Simon
Oh,
Sinek. I
I
don't know
love
him,
him. Yeah.
and I was and I went to him, and I say, "Are you Simon Sinek?" Hi, I'm Cristobal. I'm a podcaster from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I'm a big fan of yours. And I took a picture with him, and you see the picture,
So good.
and you don't see. You say, that's not a big thing. For me, it's a big thing because
Huge. Right.
I know the struggle. I know what I've been working with myself.
Right.
So that picture with Simon Sinek, it was very, very valuable for me because so it was amazing.
That was kind of him too to take the picture with you. And I love that. Well, I believe in God, right? But I love that God gave you another opportunity, right?
Yes.
Because I mean, not many of us can say we've met like two people we really admire, that are famous in our
Hmm.
lifetime. So for you to have that first opportunity and then become aware that you had this shy problem, right?
Yeah.
And then the second time say, you know what? I don't care. I'm going for it. That's powerful. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you. It's
And
awesome.
and if you want to find me, you want to contact me, you can go to my website. It's Cristobal Colon. It's CRISTOBALCOLON.net. It's .net because if you don't know, but Cristobal Colon is the Spanish version of Christopher Columbus.
Right.
So it was very difficult to try to
I
get
bet it was.
cristobalcolon.com, but it's
Right,
cristobalcolon.net. And you can go
right.
to the contact page, and you can send me a message, and we can start a conversation.
Awesome.
It's
Awesome.
I'm very delightful to have a conversation with you.
That's awesome. What about your podcast?
My podcast is Nos Cambiaron los Muñequitos. You
Right.
can go into the webpage losmunequitos.com. It's very
Great.
easy to get there. Also, I have another podcast. It's also in Spanish. It's about public speaking. It's La Palabra Precisa. In English is
Oh,
the precise word.
the precise word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's how to find the words when you want to talk to
Oh, that's
communicate.
cool. I didn't even know you had a second podcast.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Good for you. Cristobal, this was such an honor. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and even inviting me on your podcast. That was so much fun. And the very first time I've done a Spanish podcast like that. So that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you and I appreciate your time and your energy and who you are as a person and what you bring to the world. So thank you so much for letting your voice be heard.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
I really feel lucky that I met you, that I have a conversation with you in my podcast because,
Likewise.
as I told you there, I love your energy. You were sharing stories that were very sad, things very profound, but you were laughing about it.
Right.
And I remember that it was wow, this is great when you can
Right.
talk about stories of your past and you can laugh about it. that's a good sign, and
Yeah.
I love your energy, and I
Thank
always
you.
love the how much we laughed.
We
in
laughed a
in that
lot.
episode,
Yes.
yeah.
I listened to it like 2-3 times. I'm like, we laughed a lot. I loved it. It was so much fun. But you're a great host, honestly, great host. I've listened to quite a few actually of your interviews. I mean, they're so much fun. So thank you so much.
Also, if there's
Really.
anybody listening to this interview that is Spanish speaking and they think they have a great story to share, send me a message. We can maybe
Oh,
have you on my
awesome.
podcast. Yeah.
All right, guys, you heard him. He's inviting you on over. So thank you, Cristobal. And guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You know I love you so much. Make sure that you love, subscribe, all that great stuff, share. And please share this podcast out, especially because I love the bilingual. I love that he came on here. I love his whole vibe, all of it. So make sure you share all of that. Reach out to him. Go on his website. Go listen to his podcast. You're not going to be disappointed. Thank you guys for being here. This is Neena Perez. Straight talk, no sugar added. Until next time.
Today, we discuss Miro. Today, I want to talk about the hellscape that is technical diagramming, right? Everybody's nodding their heads right now, And there is a potential solution that I want to share. There was one name that several people brought up. I did some digging, and it's kind of nuts how much this program Miro has for developers. I have to share this. It could potentially be a game changer for you. So my favorite part about Miro is that half the work is already done. Like right now, typically we spend hours starting diagrams from scratch, gathering information. You get buy-in from every team. That's a lot of work to do. But Miro has a full set of integrations with the tools you're probably already using. And they also offer open APIs and SDKs for custom solutions for all those niche diagramming use cases we have to do, right? So the end result is the same, but it doesn't take forever. It's a massive, massive time saver. I'm transforming basic flowcharts and network architectures, and it all lives in one place. So are you using Miro? Have you used it? I want to hear.
That's Miro.com.